Well, it's actually you should ask is always good, but it says
That's what I'm asking.
yep,
I
I've
don't
got
know if I'm recording. I don't see my. Oh, look, I do have my note taker here. Let
yeah,
me. You can boot him out if you don't want him
yeah.
recording.
I think it's I think I just started to do it. So let me pause. Okay. So I'm hoping that that's mine is recording. Um there, but you never know. Zoom lately has been a little bit challenging. So we're gonna start off with branding, and there's something I want to share with you that I think is kind of fun. Before we do that, though, actually, after we do that, Eric, make sure I don't forget to talk about your training on Tuesday. Let's make
Okay.
sure we invite everybody to that here before we end up here. But I want to share my screen with you. I want to look at this little. Um, let's see. There we go. This little video here. So can you all see a black screen says Chicago, Broadway, the Rainbow?
Hmm.
Okay. All right. So
While most brands are making elaborate commercials to air during the big game, Skittles is going with a different approach.
Instead of an ad, a Broadway show.
Skittles the musical.
This might have been a bad idea.
Yep, we skipped the Super Bowl and instead made a Broadway musical all about how horrible and manipulative advertising is. Then we charged people $200 to watch it.
You have to buy a ticket to see an ad.
Yeah, it's a real Broadway show.
Bad marketing idea.
Maybe, but the story blew up and the show sold out in 2 days. Then we dropped the cast album on Spotify and a music video, which didn't exactly celebrate the biggest marketing day of the year. And that blew up too. On Super Bowl Sunday, fans flocked to 43rd and Broadway, where they discovered shirts and posters and vinyl records. Bootleg shirts sold outside made an appearance in the show, as did fake ads in the custom playbill. It makes me spend money I don't even have, buying hundreds of shoes I don't need. These 1,500 people would witness an ad which took months to plan and rehearse and would never be shown on TV or the web.
I don't know if I can ever trust a faceless multinational corporation again. This might have been a big mistake.
You'd think so, but the campaign was named funniest Super Bowl commercial of 2019, despite not being on the Super Bowl at all.
The most inventive run in the history of ambush advertising.
Renders every other ad actually playing during the Super Bowl pointless.
The future of Super Bowl ads doesn't include TV or football.
Yeah, exactly. Because Skittles the Musical became the most talked about ad of the entire game, without spending a penny on the Super Bowl.
Rainbow. He's the rainbow.
all right. So
With Amazon, the hardest thing is obviously finding products.
all right, let's get rid of that. Let's stop sharing here for a second. But that was kind of unique, wasn't it? Didn't you, if you remember, some of you may have remembered that from 2015. But people market in unique ways. And it's up to us to do things in unique ways as well. One thing I noticed, and we'll probably touch on this a couple of times, is people are sheeple. Now, what do you think that means? Eric, tell us what that means. People are sheeple.
We're all more comfortable following somebody else. We feel like, I don't know, I personally think that there's a piece of us inside that's a little kid that wants to feel safe following somebody that knows more than us. There's no matter how successful you are, it seems like there's a little piece of you that thinks some know better and it might be safer just following them. And at the very least, if I follow them, the blame's not on me if it goes wrong, it's on them. It's hard to be a leader.
Absolutely. It's hard to be a leader, and it's just not as scary, right? I mean, we go out, we start our lives, in preschool, and they hold hands. If I can still remember that, I'm like 4 years old, holding hands going down the hall. And it's life is just not as scary when you hold hands, said Miss Martha, and all of those kind of things. But it's fascinating to me that in marketing, it's the same thing. So I taught a class, probably the most effective and well-attended class. I had over 300 people showed up from probably 20 different brokerages. And the title of my class was Why All Agent Marketing Sucks and what you can do about it. And so in fact, I sold out. I had to give it 3 times. It was amazing. I had room for 100. I had to do it 3 times. And so, and one of the things I did there was I had everybody toss their business card on the table. And I'm guilty of that sometimes as well. You've seen my card. I've got one card with a dog on it. I've got a few other things. But out of the 100 cards on the table, there were like 2 that stood out. One was purple, and I think the other one was yellow, but everybody else looked just the same. So if everybody looks the same or everything looks the same, let's say, I don't know, let's talk about, well, what would be a good example of that? Jeans, blue jeans. Let's say we go to the store to buy jeans. Well, what if there's piles and piles and piles of jeans and they all look the same? Or cars. People like to be unique and they have their cars, but what if everything looked like a Toyota Tercel, and it's just it, they're all Toyota Tercels. Nothing stands out. They're all white. They're all the same. So it's important to stand out. It's important to be unique. And so today I'm going to try and keep this short and relevant, and we're going to cover this because it's important to know. And so we're going to talk about compelling messages in print, branding, and why what you have to say matters. And then if you have any questions, feel free to come out, and I'm going to make it so I can see more people here on this screen here. So branding matters. And the reason it matters is it's because it's a promise. It's not just about tangible benefits of your product, which is you're your product. It's a commitment. It's a guarantee that your brand pledges to customers. All right. And it's a value proposition. So beyond just selling a project, what value does it bring to your customers? Does it solve, a problem? Does it offer unparalleled convenience? Is, this where you underline the tangible benefits or not that your target audience can expect? And so one of the important things about branding is it is uniform. So when I was starting out in marketing, I was sending out tens of thousands of pieces of mail and postcards. Right now, I am not sending any postcards out this month, but I'm sending out 40 to 60,000 door hangers a week. And it used to be that each door hanger was different. And so my marketing person said, Randall, you have no uniformity. Each time you do a marketing piece, it's a one-off. This letter looks like, like nothing else. And so you're continually recreating the wheel here, and people don't realize that it's even you, or it's the same person or the same company or the same agent, or that it's a brand. You need to brand. And so that's why I branded initially. And so your unique selling point should be the heartbeat of your brand. Okay. It's going to be whatever makes your product and service stand head and shoulders above the rest. It's not about necessarily the features, but about the unique benefits and the value that you offer. And it could be a lot of things. I remember Eric Tolman is a good friend of mine, and he took a picture of him in a business suit with tool bags. He used to build garages, and that's what he did for a living. He was a contractor. And he says, the real estate agent with the contractor advantage. And he said, part of his unique selling point is, why pay somebody to come in and inspect your house? I'm going to go in and inspect it for you. And then by all means, bring somebody along later to do a home inspection just to make sure I haven't missed anything. But you're going to have 2 eyes on it. You're going to have somebody who's been in the business of construction for 20 years, and I'm going to be able to tell you whether you have something good or not. And so, that's what he did. So it's kind of unique. But, you need to have a unique selling point, something that you do that sets you head and shoulders above the rest. And it's not going to be, I give you great service, or I take good care of my clients, or whatever, because number one, that's too general. Okay. And number 2, it's just not specific, and you're going to get lost in the sheep, right? It's hard to tell sheep apart. I used to herd sheep up in Eastern Washington. And out of 2,500 sheep that we had in our band, I couldn't tell you one sheep for another. The only way you could do that is by looking at the number that was printed on it, or the ear tag, etc. So you don't want to be lost in a flock of sheeple. All right. Know your customer, know your brand. So here's what you have to ask yourself. And we're all different here. So I deal with a lot of investment property, probably predominantly. Some people are dealing with retired people. I've had one agent that's worked with people looking for horse properties. You know, amongst our group, there are people that are focusing on different things, but figure out what drives your audience, you know, what keeps them up at night. That's always a good one to know. What are people worrying about? Now, I'm up every night and I'm always thinking about stuff. I wish I could, you know, put it down to one specific thing or one specific concern, but I'm always running through a lot of different things. But find out what keeps them up at night. And then you're going to find the solutions they're actively seeking. Okay. How do they prefer to engage? You know, is it by texting? Is it by email? Is it by phone? You know, are they impulsive? You know, are your clients impulsive or do they take their time to do research? One agent of mine, Keith, he worked as a musician. And so he was always, you know, real estate agent by day, musician by night. He'd do some singing and, you know, play some grunge music, etc. And he created a business for himself fully off of one podcast and one page that was called Rock Salt, which is, you know, Salt Lake City rock groups. And I think there was less than 200 people on this Rock Salt page, but he closed between 12 and 20 transactions a year just off of that one page, that one group, because he appealed to musicians and he knew them and he knew what they were like and he knew that they were emotionally driven. And so he would appeal to emotions, etc. And a lot of people are emotionally driven, but he appealed to the things that appealed to him as a musician. And so it's important to know these things. So if you know your customer, you're going to know your brand. All right. And that's going to help you identify your brand and focus your brand. And you can always rebrand. If you've got a brand that's not doing very good, rebrand. Start over, recreate yourself. So a positioning statement is essentially about, you know, your brand's elevator pitch. All right. And you can combine the two. So it's basically, it's not just highlighting your unique selling points. It's about connecting those selling points with the pain points and the desires of your target audience. So what are some pain points right now? Leah, what are pain points with buyers right now? Usually a bottom left. You can unmute. Oh, sorry. Let me see. Oh, there we go. Oh, almost. Sorry, Lee, I don't know what's going on there. It's like you're not muting. So, all right, another volunteer. Luke, what do you suppose? Luke's kind of a new agent, but what do you think pain points might be for agents? Unmute yourself. Or for buyers, sorry.
Pain points for buyers?
Yeah, in today's market, what would you see as a pain point?
Realtors.
Okay, it's good.
So
Probably true.
people reaching out to them that are interested in themselves instead of what they need, like not listening to them. You can't see sold data. That's something that's kind of frustrating in Utah. So you don't know if you're getting a good deal or not, unless you are a realtor. So that's a buyer. Like when I was an investor and didn't have MLS access, that was something that was always frustrating. Let's see what else. There's two to get us started.
Okay, that's good. All right, now I'm going to pick on somebody else about sellers. What do you think a seller's pain point would be? And let's see who we got here. Sol Maria, are you with us? That's the bad thing about not being able to see people's faces, you know? Or Mike Carlin, you're up there. I see you paying attention. What do you think might be a seller's pain point, Mike?
Would it be possibly the fees to pay a real estate
Sure.
agents? Maybe what's the, if we're not showing our value of, what we can do for them and why they need a buyer agent present, or what we're doing as far as value. Like, why can't they just do it themselves? We need to show our value
Okay.
of
Good.
why we're important to help them sell their house.
Okay. I think somebody says lack of advertisements, insufficient buyer leads. That's good. Thanks, Mike. Thanks, Gautam. I appreciate it. Yeah, those are things that are concerns. And increased selling time. I just closed on a condo that I put on the market, and I was a little concerned because condos are a little slow right now, but fortunately we sold it, moved it quickly, and it was good. But yeah, those are concerns. And so if you can, create an elevator pitch that talks about, and basically its positioning statement combines your unique selling point with the concerns and desires of your target audience. And so it's how you basically bridge the gap between what you offer clients and what their fears are, and what's in it for them and what's a benefit to them. So it's important. When you build brands, you build trust and loyalty through consistency. So clarity increases confidence. When your target audience understands what you offer and sees it's consistent with representation across channels, its similarity, they're more likely to engage, trust, and become loyal customers. If you're consistent in appearance and approach, your message will build on itself instead of each time being a one-off contact starting from ground zero each time. Now, when we started heavy into this, super heavy was back during 08, 09, 2010, etc. I think that I did more short sales than anybody else in Utah. I did thousands of them. We were working them for, I don't know, maybe 10 different brokerages. We had an office building full of women working short sales. And we were doing a lot for ourselves. And so we would send letters out there. And it was important to be consistent, because when we were not consistent in our branding, when we didn't have a brand starting out, we weren't getting the return. And then I started to notice that once we branded, my best returns came between the fourth and the sixth letter. And I would send out 8 letters, but the vast majority of responses came between the fourth and the 8th letter. And so that was important. It's important to have consistency in your brand. Now, Picasso was said once, he said, good artists copy, great artists steal. All right. And this is something that you do. And you should,
I need to get out to my car right now.
you should look at competitors' messaging. So whenever you see a competitor's ad, another agent, sends a flyer out, a postcard, a letter, anything else, take a look at it. Study their communication. I'm not saying necessarily copy it, because most agents' marketing sucks, to be honest. It just does. But study the communication, study your competitors, identify their promises and their value propositions, so that you can understand where you stand in relation to them, okay? And how you can do it better. You can look at that and say, okay, that's kind of weak, or that kind of sucks, or, it's not standing out, all right? And this is going to guide your messaging so that you'll have a better strategy, so that you can be something unique instead of one among the many, because you want to be unique. More people recognize your business when you brand. One of the most obvious reasons that businesses, or in this case, agents, need branding is to help them get recognized. Okay. If you have a strong branding for your business, people naturally take note of it, and they would much more than those who haven't branded, or a business without it. A business that doesn't really have any cohesive or consistent branding isn't going to stay in someone's mind for very long. You want to be memorable, all right? A business with a distinct logo, attractive colors, or other unique visual elements is going to be much more memorable. And this is notable in bad ways and good ways. So how often have you seen some Hollywood star, starlet, or professional athlete or whatever, they do something stupid, or they're an idiot, or they commit a crime, they assault somebody, 300-pound lineman beats down a 90-pound, 90-year-old man or something. And you're thinking, oh, that'll destroy their career, right? That's going to destroy their career. Well, it doesn't. And why doesn't it? It's because in a month or two, nobody can remember what actually happened. All they can remember is that person's name, and it actually builds their career. And there's been a lot of studies that have been done on that. I'm not saying go out and beat somebody down, especially not 90-year-old men, but I'm saying that you want to be memorable and memorable in a good way because someone might see your brand for only a moment. But if it sticks out in a positive way, there's a good chance that they're not going to forget it. Even if this person isn't ready to use your products or services just yet, when they're ready to take the next step in the future at some point, if your branding has stuck with them in a good way, they're going to come back to you. Okay. So be memorable. I kind of hate the purple owl that we see in real estate, but it's memorable, and it's good. It's just not me, but it's memorable. So our value systems, brands work because they fit our values. We identify with them. A lot of times growing up, we would want to buy jeans because, Levi's were tough, for guys, et cetera. And our values as young teenagers was that, we're tough. And I grew up in an area that had a lot of a logging background and paper mill background. So it's, very blue collar, very, very hardcore, and so what they did was, they wore jeans. And there's some stupid fashions too. Like my dad said that when he was growing up in Burley, Idaho, that the fashion when he was in high school is everybody wore overalls, bib overalls, and then they would have alarm clocks in their pockets on chains in that school. That was like the stupidest thing ever, but it's kind of funny. But they would carry around these alarm clocks on chains and stick them back in their pocket instead of having watches, and that was a fashion statement at the time. I don't know what the message was, but and he didn't remember, but it was kind of funny. So Jordan Peterson, I really like listening to him. Very clear thinker. Um, he's a best-selling author and teaches psychology at the University of Toronto. During a lecture, said you can't even look at the world without a value structure. Okay, so everything you see is going to be through a value structure, and you're going to bring things into your value structure that align with your values. So, and this is why. So here's a story. I'm going to tell you a story. All right. So there's this guy and his wife, and they're walking down the street together, and the guy goes, "Hey, did you see that Ferrari? That was the Ferrari, I don't know what we'll call it, the Testarossa XYZ." He says, that's not something you see every day. And she says, "Well, I didn't even notice. No, I didn't notice." And then, they go, 5 or 10 minutes further, and she says, "Oh, look, did you see that girl in that new pink Gucci skirt? She must be a trust fund baby to be able to afford that." And the guy goes, "I didn't notice." The thing is that marketing has to do with where your values are, where your focus is, what interests you. So guys don't care about the dress unless maybe it's really short and she's got great legs. But then they're not noticing the dress, they're noticing the legs. So, they're not going to see that. And most women could care less about cars. I know as guys, we've had a lot of fancy cars. I've driven, XJs, Jaguars. There was like 6 in the country and all this other stuff. Nobody cares. They look at that and go, "Oh, that's interesting," and move on. They couldn't tell you what it was. But so we want to focus on the story that's going to interest our clients and our potential clients. So here's 10 effective ways to make print marketing stand out. So circles. If you draw a circle around something or an oval or anything that looks like a circle, that is going to draw people's eyes to it immediately. I have some theories on this, but I was actually, it took place in a study some years ago, and then I watched a study where they made you wear these glasses. And these glasses, they throw up ads and commercials and other things on screens, and there was an X on where your eye was focused. And it was interesting because with it as women, it was breasts, eyes, breast, eyes, breast, eyes, continually. Like I'm talking in a 30-second commercial, it might have been 30 times. But I noticed that when they put men on the commercial, it was eyes, it was mouth, it was anything round, anything oval. And so anytime there was a circle, it could have been, a coffee cup or anything else, anything round, anything circular, the eye was immediately drawn to that. And it was some 200 times in a very short period of time. And it was funny because even women's eyes were drawn to the same exact things. Like you would think, okay, it's men looking at women. No, it was women looking at women too. There was virtually no difference. Everybody's eyes are drawn as a circle. So if there's something that you've got unique, something you want to stand out, draw a circle around it. Okay. Or put it in a colored circle or do something, but you can use a circle to help your marketing stand out. That was one of the things that was a big epiphany for me. But it was fascinating to watch people's eyes go from circle to circle to circle and barely touch on anything else, but eyes continually are drawn to a circle. In fact, there is a psychology behind this. I read this article and it went way into depth in that. It's like because the world is round and because we're surrounded with so many things and that are round, etc. But people find circles beautiful, and even if they don't, they're still looking at them. You want to be unique. So when you have a business card, you don't have to get a fancy one. There's some plastic ones that are multicolored. But if you've got a business card, be unique with it. Don't be afraid to stand out. Instead, like everybody else, we've all got dark business cards with us in suits and ties or whatever, boring backgrounds. Eric's picture right now, you can see him there with, the stuff on the wall. I don't know what you would call that, some type of a cascading squares or whatever there. But if you took a picture of that or like that right there with his hands up, that would be unique. That would stand out, and he wouldn't be lost among the sheep or among the hundreds and thousands of other real estate agents that are millions worldwide trying to do the same thing and copy each other, because they all copy each other and all their marketing sucks. So don't do that. Stand out in color and texture. Be bold. Use use contrasting colors. Use vibrant color combinations that pop, especially against everyone else, your competitor agents, more subdued materials, because they're freaking boring. All right. Supersize it. If you're going to send out a postcard, there's two things you can do. You can go big or you can go little. All right. If you go out with the standard, 8-inch card, nobody's going to notice. I typically, when I'm sending postcards out, I send out the Bed Bath and Beyond size, which is quite large because it's more noticeable. When you've got a handful of mail on the way to the trash can, which is what most of us do, right? We grab the mail that we've got in our mailbox. We pick it up in our hand and we look at it as we walk to the trash can to throw it away. Well, big things stand out, but so do tiny ones that are maybe yellow or pink or red, etc. So I've actually had some of those that I've had people send me, and I thought, I noticed that because it was small. But be different, stand out. You can supersize it like McDonald's, or you can, do something else and make it smaller. Mike, go ahead and did you raise your hand there?
Yeah, I did. One thing that I tried was, we have these flyers, either in the house for open houses or showings, or on the street or into an HOA. And one thing that I did was I took a picture of a map and put it on the back of the flyer so people could go around the neighborhood and know, keep it as this map to the whole neighborhood.
Nice.
So I thought that was, yeah.
That was unique. Yes. Yeah, no, that's unique. And why not? Perfect. I mean, that's awesome. That's great thinking. So Lionel Peters worked with me for years. He's a great guy, great agent, worked mostly in the high-end areas. But he did a newsletter, and he would get people like in East Mill Creek or Wander Lane or some of those other places. He would get the pizza places, the restaurants, dry cleaners, etc., to pay him, because he said, I'm going to hand deliver 1,500 of these this month to the people's doors. And so he would have his newsletter in there with the things that he wanted to say, draw attention to activities that were happening, maybe write a small article, etc., about something that someone's kid had done in the area, and then have all these ads that were in there as well. And he got paid about $2,000 a month. So they actually gave him $2,000 a month to do his newsletter, and he just would go out and deliver it, and it kept him thin. I probably need to deliver a newsletter. I could stand to get rid of a few pounds, but it was unique. And so there's a lot of ways to do that. But that's great, Mike. Putting a map on it. I love it. Very creative. Personalize it. Okay. Make it individual. Don't make it like everybody else. Don't be afraid to be different. Okay. I'd rather see somebody do bad marketing and be different. I mean, here's the thing. There's just not worse marketing than what we see as agents. It all looks the same and it's all crap. If it wasn't crap, it would work and we'd be closing 10 times as much. Instead, most people do 100 postcards or a certain amount of letters with cookie recipes or something. It doesn't work. Personalize it, make it yours. If you wouldn't look at it, nobody else will either. Okay, it's important. Make it something you would want to look at. More importantly, make it something that your spouse or your potential clients would want to look at. Feel free to reach out to them and say, hey, what do you think about this? When I was going for a brand and I was looking for a specific brand for one of my companies, I sent somebody out to Smith's and I had them poll 200 people. And I said, which one of these pictures do you like better? And they all liked the one picture better, that was more colorful, etc. And then I asked my marketing person and I said, well, see, they like this one better. And she said, it looks kind of Tinker Toy. She says, here, this is what I want you to do. Send your people back to Smith's and ask them, say, if you were losing your house and you needed to sell quickly before you lost everything, which one of these brands would be more appealing to you? And it was the other one. Okay. So when you're doing brand research, make sure that you're asking the right questions. Super important. But personalize it, make it unique to you. Tell a story. Everybody loves a story. I have sat through 61 years of church. I can't begin to count the number of times that I've fallen asleep in church. Probably, I don't know, every week for decades on end, perhaps. But the times I didn't fall asleep was when somebody was telling a story, when it was an interesting story. Or, you look at the book of Daniel. It's always one of my favorite ones where they're getting thrown into they're refusing to, worship the king's idol. And they get thrown into the fiery furnace and and they come walking out because God saves them. It's an interesting story. It doesn't matter, even if you're not Christian, it's kind of interesting. But tell a story. The stories evoke emotions, and it can create a strong, connection between you and your clients. Emotional connections lead to brand loyalty and increased engagement. And so feel free to use a story. Tell something. If you're going to send a letter out or a postcard, so-and-so was doing this, they were worried about selling their house. And then I came along and used my 19-point sales sales plan to market their house and was able to get top dollar for their house in only 12 days. Something. I'll do better than that, but that was just off the cuff. And so I usually think these things through for at least an hour and run through different iterations of how I want to tell the story. But make it memorable, because people tend to remember stories better than facts or statistics. A well-crafted narrative makes your brand or product more memorable, and you want your brand to be memorable in this business. So it increases recall when it's time for customers to make purchasing decisions. The key for all real estate agents should be top of mind awareness. Okay, conventional wisdom says that if you contact 12 people 12 times a year who know that you practice real estate, you're going to do one transaction from each of those, that each group of 12. All right. So it's top of mind awareness, 12 people, 12 times a year, top of mind awareness. When they're thinking real estate, they're thinking Monica, Luke, Mike, Kevin, Shelby, any of those. That's what you want them to think. Real estate, Eric Lee, Mr. Real Estate. Simplification, stories break down complicated concepts or product features into more, digestible, relatable content. And so it makes it easier for consumers to understand what you're offering. So basically, an example of that was I told a story to this couple, and they had a house in Sandy. They wanted to sell because they needed to move to Missouri for a new job that he had taken, and they had their eye on a piece of land with a little lake on it because land was really cheap in Missouri, and it was only a few $100,000. And so when they talked to me, they said, "Well, Randall, what can we do here?" And I said, "Well, let me tell you, what it's going to look like here. So there's two things we can do. I can either buy your house and pay cash for it, okay? And what that looks like is this. Right now, when we're done speaking, I'm going to walk through your house and I'm going to look at everything. In fact, I've already walked through your house and looked at everything. And I know that it needs a new roof. And I know that there's a few other things that are wrong out there, things that probably anybody that buys a house are going to notice and may want to have fixed. So I've already walked through the house. And so you tell me, this is the price that I can give you. And it's going to probably be a little bit less than what we could sell it for if we were selling it on the multiple listing service. But how it looks is you're going to close on the day you want to close. So when do you want to move to Missouri? And they said like the 21st of next month. I said, great. So do you want to close on the 20th? Do you want to close on the 15th? Do you want to close on the 19th? Or do you want to wait till the very last minute and close on the 21st so that you don't have to get a hotel? It's going to be that easy. I said, or we list it on the multiple listing service. I put it out on 20 different websites. We put it on the MLS. You're going to get, a higher number of people are going to look at it, and you're probably going to make more money. In fact, I can guarantee you're going to make more money doing it this way. And when I ran the numbers, it looked like it was going to be about $12,000 difference from what I was going to pay at the time versus what they could get. I said, so I told them, I said, you're going to make like $12,000 difference. However, they're going to do a home inspection, and they're going to find things that are wrong. And what do you think you might have to fix? And they said, of course, the roof and the sidewalk that's lifting and a few of those kind of things. And there's the possibility that we might not be able to close on the day that you want, because what if we go through a month of this and they can't get financing? At the time, financing was a little more difficult. And so it could end up going back on the market. And so you run a small risk of you not being able to sell when you want, etc. So they told me, they said, Randall, we think we need the $12,000. I said, great. I'll come back tomorrow morning with, the listing paperwork. I'll list your paperwork. I'll list your house, and we'll sell it for you. So I left their house, got in my car, drove 200 yards to the stop sign. At the stop sign, my phone rang. I looked down, and it was them. And they said, Randall, we've been talking about this, and we want to do it the easy way. We like the story of where we know what we're getting. We close on the day that we want to close, and we're able to move when we want to move without any possibility of anything holding us up. And so there's a story that you can tell. It's a story that worked for me. So sometimes stories can make things simple, and it's a good way to do it. My kids love stories. I like stories still, and I'm, just a big kid at 61. Be different. Again, it's okay to be different. Be the red person in a room full of whites. Be the red umbrella. Okay. Here's something, an acronym that you can use. It's the AIDA formula. So it's attention, interest, desire, and action. So it's a classic marketing writing structure when you're writing marketing. So here's an example. Tired of sleepless nights? Okay, we get their attention, right? Our revolutionary memory foam mattress contours to your body. Interest. I actually bought this. I've got the memory foam mattress. And then wake up refreshed and pain-free every morning. That's the desire, because we all want to wake up pain-free every morning and refreshed. And then try it free for 100 nights. Order now the action statements. AIDA. Attention, interest, desire, and action is something that you can focus on. And that's a very solid way to write ad copy. Use power words, because power words evoke emotion and trigger psychological responses. For example, discover the secret to effortless weight loss, right? The words discover and secret create intrigue, while effortless means little effort or an easy solution. You can do the same thing with real estate. Discover the secret to selling your house for top dollar, no matter what the interest rate is at, and sell your house without effort quickly. It's a whole bunch of things you can do. Be urgent, create a sense of urgency. Encourage immediate action by implying scarcity or time limits. Flash sale today only, shop now before your favorites sell out. Or who knows what's going to happen the next time the Fed meets. The interest rates could go up, they could go down, we don't know. Things are changing. Right now, we know what we're going to get. In 6 months, it might be something different. For example, my condo. A year ago, condos were selling really fast and at top dollar. But for the last 6 months, they're taking twice as long to sell as single-family homes are. Social proof and testimonials, okay? Use social proof. Incorporate testimonials or statistics to build credibility. An example might be, join over 1 million satisfied customers who's transformed their homes with our smart listing system, whatever it's out there, with whatever makes us unique. There's a lot of things that can be said there, and you should focus on telling the story that people want to hear. This isn't the time of truth where we're telling the story of truth, and it is a time of truth. I'm not ever telling you to lie, but I'm telling you that it's okay to go with the narrative they want to hear. They want the easy button. If you remember that ad years ago, push the easy button, they want the easy button. People want it easy. So make it easy. Make your narrative easy. People that work with me sleep easy. Do you know, this is actually a fact, do you know that according to the National Association of Realtors, in a study they've done over 10 years, that the vast majority, over 70% of sellers, cry at least 2 times when they're selling their house. It's one of the most stressful things that a person can do is sell their home. To the contrary, people that work with me sleep like a baby because I take all of the stress out of it. I let you know up front what the repairs are that they're going to want. I work with the other agent so that you're not involved in the drama of what might be happening with the lender, etc., and so forth, and tell that narrative, tell the story that shows how you're going to make them sleep like a baby instead of crying like 70% of all people do. And it looks like I had a couple of chat comments here. Let's see, like somebody else, sorry, I'm at the headache pain for sellers or having their house not sell. Yep, that's true. How do we honor the specs of our company logo and be different without going out of bounds? Okay, that's a good one. I'm going to give you my opinion on that. As long as it says equity real estate, do what you want. Okay. I like having the logo. In fact, the logo, the state law just states that the logo has to be clear. Okay. It doesn't have to be 50% the size. It just has to be clear. So look behind Luke here. It says equity. That's fine. It's blue. Does that go against anything? No. Throw that blue equity logo in there. I don't care if you throw it on a bright neon pink sign. Whatever it is, it's your business. Do it. Now, somebody gives me grief. We may have to have another discussion, later on if, the majority of owners hate that. But to be honest, I've got agents using all kinds of different marketing. Just make sure the equity logo's there. Make sure it says equity real estate. That's what the law says, right? Because if I'm looking at it from a point of self-interest, if Eric and I are looking at it from a point of self-interest, do you think that we would rather have you close 100 transactions with what might seem to most people as, goofy marketing with equity on it versus really boring marketing that looks the same as everywhere else, where it looks really professional, equity, real estate, etc., and you're not closing any transactions? The important thing is that we want you to close, and just obey the law, obey the statute, but close. Eric?
So just to clarify on that, you don't have to use the logo at all. State law just requires the name of the brokerage. So it has to be Equity Real Estate. I still do see floating around occasionally, sometimes people using an equity logo that just says equity without the real estate. And as mind-boggling as it is, with the scams being perpetrated out there, I actually had the Division of Real Estate call me and tell an agent they had to cease and desist on all their marketing that just had equity on it, because that could be potentially misleading because it didn't say Equity Real Estate. So again, you don't have to use the logo, but you do have to say Equity Real Estate. And as Randall stated, the old law used to say it had to be 50% of largest print. Now they've removed that language because realtors were literally measuring their competitions and saying, look, it's a millimeter off. There's no denying that they're out of bounds. And so they changed the language of the law and said it has to be conspicuous. So it can't be hidden so far in the fine print that you can't read it. It has to stand out a little bit, but it doesn't have to be the logo. And then I made the comment on there as well that most agents will still use the standard logo, but if they're looking for branding and brand recognition, they're putting the focus on their name or their team name. And I've seen people get very creative with their own name. They're using really cool fonts and stuff. Their team name, Equity Real Estate, is down at the bottom, but the emphasis is more on them. And I think that's rightly so. And it's quite frankly nice to be with a brokerage that allows you that flexibility, because some don't. But really, this business is about you, and we're here to facilitate your growth.
Absolutely, 100%. And it's funny because if they know you and trust you, they'll work with you. So there used to be this brokerage, and the broker was a super good guy, great agent, kind, wonderful man. He just had the misfortune of his parents naming him, I guess. And he named his brokerage after himself, but it was Dickwood Realty. And so, my aunt worked for Dickwood Realty forever, and she was one of the top agents, Nancy Toffer, multi-million-dollar club, every year back when homes were 30 grand. And did a ton of business. And she just told me, she said, you can work for anybody with any name. She says, it's you. You're the brand. If people know you, like you, and trust you, they'll work with you. And so I can attest to the fact that is, that's true. Hey, Eric, tell us about your training coming up here.
Okay, let me address this last question from Shelby Hill first. How do you want us to use the Equity logo on social media? What if we're posting videos on Instagram or Facebook? So state law on that states that again, it's not the logo, it's the business name, has to be on all forms of marketing. It's a $500 fine from the Division of Real Estate, and they issue these fines like candy at a parade. Every division newsletter is full of these. So you have to have the name of the brokerage unless it doesn't fit. So some like tweets are limited in certain number of characters or something like so if there's a limitation on the space, then you have to be one click away from it. So if people click on that, it takes them to a website or a link where the name is visible. But Facebook, there's no restrictions on space in Facebook. So any marketing done on Facebook would have to have it. The only time they allow for some flexibility in that is if there is no space, then you have to be one click away from the name of the brand. Okay. But if there's space, and if you're not limited in the space of the marketing, the Equity Real Estate has to be in the marketing.
It'd be like if you had a link there, like sell now for, twice as much. Click here, and then that link should take you to Equity Real Estate. So
yeah, Michael, you had a question?
Oh, I just a little bit of a share. I On everything I do, I either do hashtag equity real estate or Facebook. I do at equity real estate. And I think that takes care of it right there,
Okay. Yeah.
hopefully.
All right. Yeah, no, that's all the law requires is just the name of the brokerage has to be listed. Okay, Randall, training tomorrow. So every month we kind of do a theme, right? For our 9 o'clock class, it's more of a workshop. And then what I'm going to do is once a month, I'm going to do a training that goes a little bit more in depth on the background of that. So this month, our theme was on our business plan. And so we're going to be doing a little bit more of an in-depth training on that because everybody should be working towards their business plan. But here's why this is important to you guys. Everybody can get out and they can go to work really hard, right? If you wake up every day and don't have any plan whatsoever, you'll still end up at the end of the day exhausted and tired. You'll just look back and you'll think, what did I do? And what you'll find is that you ran errands for a spouse, or went and you spent some time, maybe you had a longer lunch with a title company because you didn't have a plan, or you were running around for the kids, or you did something, but none of it was according to your own design. Okay, so you end up at the end of the day exhausted without ever having lived with intent. The importance of a plan is the same reason a boat has a rudder. You can always kick it into full gear, but if it doesn't have a rudder, you're going to go somewhere, you might run aground, you might sink because you get caught in a bad storm. You have to be able to steer it. And living your life with intent, I think, is important for anybody, but having a plan for your business is, to me, the key for everything. If you don't have a business plan, how do you hold yourself accountable at the end of the day? How do you say, okay, this was the plan, this was what I did, and now here I can look back and compare my plan with what I did and identify the flaws, or I can identify, hey, this worked really well, but this didn't, so let's make some tweaks here. If you don't have a plan, you don't have any of that. So the plan is where it all starts, and then you put the plan into action, and then you evaluate. This month, we're talking about the plan. So that's going to be what the training is tomorrow at 10 o'clock. It will be via Zoom, so you're all welcome to join, and the link should be in the training calendar.
All right, I'm going to make sure I look to make sure that it's there. And I want to be there. So thank you, Eric.
I'll come with
Appreciate it.
stories.
Yeah, stories. Be purposeful, right? Live with purpose.
Right.
That's right. And I want to see Eric. You guys, I'm going to bring this up forever because it was so memorable. But I saw a picture of Eric on these jumping stilts. Yeah. So he used to have these stilts.
I did find them. I found them out of my shed. I was getting things all cleaned up for fall and still have them.
It's awesome. But yeah, I always thought that'd be a great picture for marketing. You know, watch Eric jump over a car, do a flip over a car.
I am smart enough not to put them on anymore. I'm too old for that.
All right. Have a wonderful week and live with purpose.
Thanks, you guys. Thanks, Randall.
Bye, Eric.
Thank you.
Thank you.